Hola chicos, bienvenidos de nuevo. This is our new lecture, and we are starting off with the verb gustar. So last week you all had an activity or homework, I might say una tarea, where you had a presentation. ¿Sí? Tuvieron una presentación where you talked about all about me, and my bestie, o mi amigo, mi amiga, mi hermano, mi padre, right? So the second person, you were able to choose the person you wanted to share that information. You talked about their birthdays, what they like to do, and all that stuff. Okay? Entonces, esa fue la tarea de la semana pasada, where you talked about gustar más el infinitivo, right? You used the verb gustar, which is to like, or something that's pleasing to you or to someone else, plus the infinitive. And so what do I mean by the infinitive? If we look at if you look at your presentations, right, we used, whoops, something right here, like this, un ejemplo, ¿no? Something like this. A Sandra le gusta el invierno, right? Le gusta el invierno. A Sebastián le gusta el verano. A los padres de Sandra les gusta bailar. Okay? And here, yes, they like the season, right? Which is el invierno, which is winter. El verano is the summer, right? And so those are just things, nouns, seasons. However, if you look at this third example, a los padres de Sandra les gusta bailar. What do they like to do? Les gusta bailar. They like to dance. And so bailar is our verb, see? And it's in the infinitive form. And so the way I want you to think about the infinitive forms of the verbs, and when I mention conjugation, right? Because we're going to talk about how to conjugate in this lesson. And so bailar, it ends in AR, right? So all the verbs are going to end in AR, ER, or IR, okay? And so firstly, we're gonna focus on bailar, but we'll see some examples with these activities that end in in ER and IR. But bailar, the forms, the infinitive forms. Think of a lamp, see? Una lámpara. Think of a lamp. The purpose of a lamp, what is it? To light up, see? The purpose of a lamp. Now, if it's not plugged in, it doesn't give light, right? It doesn't light up. And so when the lamp is unplugged and it's just in its simplest form, right? It's not doing anything. That is what I like to call the infinitive form of a verb, right? So think of those verbs that end in AR, ER, and IR, and the infinitive as the lamp that's unplugged, that's not working, okay? And so with the gustar and plus infinitive, right, we leave the verb untouched. The verb is just its own little verb, right? It's not changing anything. And so the thing that is changing is les gusta, right? Me gusta, te gusta, le gusta, nos gusta, os gusta, o les gusta, right? Les gusta. So that is what's changing here when we're using the verb gustar, right? The verb gustar. And so bailar, comer, correr, cantar, right? Those stay in their infinitive form. And so we're not plugging in those conjugations in, right? That lamp is not plugged in. We just kind of leave them as is. So the verb bailar, comer, correr, vivir, right? That is what we called infinitive form. So the infinitive form of verb, it's its simplest form, right? It's the simplest form. There's just nothing. That's just basic, the basic verb, okay? And so that is what we used last week when you did your presentation, when we learned about to use the verb gustar in the infinitive, right? Like you said, gustar, like see, gustar, we added these pronouns, le, me, te, nos, os, right? All these pronouns, me, te, le, nos, les. But then the verb gustar, it is an AR verb, right? But we just got rid of that R. And so see, that's already kind of like changing the verb. Now that is plugging in the lamp, okay? Now, we learned this last week. Me gusta, to say I like something or something is pleasing to me. Te gusta, right? You like something, something is pleasing to you, right? Le gusta, something is pleasing or to him, to her, or to usted in the formal, right? Nos gusta, is that something that we like or something that's pleasing to us? Nos gusta, right? Les gusta, that is, they like certain things or certain things is pleasing to them. Okay, les gusta. So these are the pronouns that we learned last week with the verb gustar and the infinitive, right? Les gusta correr. They like to run. Nos gusta aprender. We like to learn, right? Aprender. Infinitive forms. Entonces, si vamos a la página 55, and let me tell you, this is where we're going to get into the conjugations, okay? So don't be scared, don't panic. Entonces, si van a la página 55, you go to page 55 or your textbook, and I have my textbook here, but I'll share with you on the e-textbook. Let me just go here. The first example that you see is this one. A Sebastián le gusta ver videos en línea, right? So we have a Sebastián, so we know who or our subject, right? A Sebastián le gusta ver videos en línea. So le gusta, le gusta. We know that le is for the third person, él, ella, or usted, right? And it tells us who our subject is, a Sebastián, right? So remember, if it's in the third person, they can use él, ella, usted, or their name. If it's the name of someone else that doesn't include tú or yo, it's in the third person, like here, a Sebastián, right? So a Sebastián, him, right? He likes to watch videos or to see videos online, okay? Entonces, we know that in order to use the verb gustar and the infinitive, we need that a right in the front, right? A, and then to who. It's pleasing to who? A Sebastián, ¿sí? Le gusta ver videos en línea. And so our verb here is ver, ¿sí? Ver. What's the ending for this verb? Does it end in AR, ER, or IR? It ends in ER, ¿sí? Entonces, a Sebastián le gusta ver videos en línea. So here we are using the verb gustar and the infinitive. However, if I just say he sees or he watches videos online, right? Not necessarily that he likes it, but he watches it or he sees them, right? Then we take away the a in le gusta, right? We take away a in le gusta, but then this is where the verb changes because we're not using the verb gustar anymore. And so this verb has to change. Now, this is where we plug in the lamp, okay? Because it has to change since there is no gustar anymore. And so this same sentence would look something like this. Sebastián ve videos en línea, ¿sí? Sebastián sees online videos or watches online videos, okay? Sebastián ve videos en línea. So, ver, right? In this one, we had the ER ending. It was in its infinitive form. However, here, Sebastián ve videos en línea. What happened? What happened to the R? We deleted it. See? Sebastián ve videos en línea. And because it's in the third person, you guys remember that, right? We're talking about él, Sebastián, right? He sees online videos or he watches online videos. And so that is how we conjugate the verb ver, right? ER in the third person. So that is why we got rid of that R. If you notice, if you watch videos, right? And you can say, yo veo videos en línea, right? So we drop basically the ER, the endings. We drop the endings, whether it's AR, ER, or IR. In this case, it's an ER. And then these are the endings for ER verbs. Yo veo, tú ves. Here, I need to have an acento here. Okay. So yes, yo veo, ¿sí? Tú ves, él ve, ella ve, usted ve, nosotros vemos, vosotros veis, y ellos, ellas, ustedes ven. I think that has an acento on veis. Oops. Okay. And so that is how we conjugate this verb. Now, not all of the verbs, most of the verbs that we have in this chapter end in AR. And so we're going to focus in AR first. This is just a demonstration. But we also have, I think we have another one. Ir. Les gusta jugar. So we have a couple of irregular verbs. And so let's see them together as we go through the different activities that we have on page 55. And let me just share that with you. And just give me a second. I'm going to pause because I need to charge my computer. So just give me a second. Okay. Bueno, vamos a la página 55. Let's go to page 55. Y vamos a ver. To see the rest of these. Oh, let's see. Okay, there it is. So las actividades favoritas. So this is what you're going to see. Las actividades favoritas en página 55. Página 55. Entonces, we did the first one, right? A Sebastián le gusta ver videos en línea. We know that if we take away a le gusta, right? We can just say he does something, right? That is what we're going to do. So instead of saying he likes, she likes, they like, we like to do this, right? We're just going to say they do this, right? So for example, número 2. A los estudiantes les gusta salir a bailar. And so salir, it is an irregular verb, okay? But let's just change that to bailar for now. So let me just go to the whiteboard. Y vamos aquí. So this is the text that we have. A los estudiantes, vamos a decir, les gusta bailar. I'm going to talk about irregular verbs in a moment. And so let's say we had this, right? A los estudiantes les gusta bailar, right? It's pleasing, or students like to dance. However, if we take away a y les gusta, we can say los estudiantes and then dance, right? The students dance. So we want to change it from the students like to dance to the students dance. See? Do you guys see the difference there? Los estudiantes bailan. Okay? Los estudiantes bailan. The students dance. And so bailar, right? That is our verb. We took away a, right? And les gusta, because we're not using the verb gustar anymore. In this case, we just want to say that they do certain things, right? They dance, for example. And so the verb that we're working with is bailar, which ends in AR. And so that takes us to our AR endings. And so this is what we're going to focus more for this chapter, like I said, and next chapter as well. Okay. And so these are the endings, right? Because when we conjugate a verb, when we plug in the lamp, that means we're dropping that AR, right? And we stay with the stem. The stem in this case is bail, right? B-A-I-L. That is our stem. A-R-A-L, that is our ending. And so when we conjugate it, we drop that ending and we plug in the new ending. And so the ending for yo, it's an O. The ending for tu, it's an as, right? The ending for él, ella, usted is just a. Okay. For yo, tú, él, ella, usted. And then we have one for nosotros. Vamos. Is an. And let me see. You're gonna find it. Like I said, the AR verbs, this is kind of an introduction. We're going to talk more about these AR verbs in chapter 3, because that is when we focus on these AR verbs. But here, wait, I don't know if I can pause it. But oh, no, I can't find it. Anyway, AR verbs. Here it is. Okay. So en la página 103, on page 103, this is where you're going to find the endings as well. Okay. Again, vosotros, I'm not going to be testing you on these, but it is great to know them just in case. Okay. So those are the endings for AR verbs. So o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Okay. So let's say los estudiantes bailan, right? What's the ending? Again, we dropped the AR, but we added AN, the AN. So, okay, so where do we see the ending AN? Is it yo? Is it tú? Is it él, ella, usted? Nosotros, vosotros, or ellos, ellas, ustedes, right? Ellos, ellas, ustedes, that is where we find the an ending. And so it makes sense because who are we talking about? Who are our subjects here? Los estudiantes, right? Ellos, they. Uy, I can't type, right? They, ellos. Okay, trying to write cursive here. Ellos, okay? So yes, ellos, and then if we're using an AR verb, we drop the AR from the verb. We go, okay? And then we plug this one in. We plug in the limp, see? Bailan, and that is what we called conjugating the verbs. Los estudiantes bailan, right? The students dance. Let's look at the next one. The next one says, let's see. A Omar y a su amigo les gusta jugar al fútbol. Now, jugar, it is an AR verb, but this one is also irregular. And so this one, it doesn't follow the rules, the ones we just saw of AR. It doesn't follow those rules. So we'll look at this one at the end as well. Right here. A Camila le gusta mucho textear a sus amigos. Think of figure out the verb for that one. What's the verb? What is the verb here? ¿Cuál es el verbo that we're using in this example? A Camila le gusta mucho textear. ¿Sí? A Camila le gusta mucho textear a sus amigos. She likes, or it's pleasing to her, right, to text her friends. Now, again, we're not using the verb gustar anymore, right? So we're going to get rid of this a and le gusta. See? Now, our verb is textear, to text. See? Now, this sentence says, a Camila le gusta mucho textear a sus amigos. She likes to text her friends. Okay? But if we want to say she texts her friends, see? We can delete a in le gusta. We can delete the verb gustar. And we're left with Camila textea mucho sus amigos. Now notice here I changed the order format, see? Textear came before mucho. That is because mucho, right, was with le gusta, like she likes to do this a lot. Camila textea mucho a sus amigos, okay? Now, how do we know is this is the form that we're looking at? So you guys remember the endings? Is o for yo, as for tú, a for él, ella, usted, amos for nosotros, ais for vosotros, and an for ellos, ellas, ustedes. Now, who is our subject here? Who are we talking about? Who does this? Right? Oh, tú, él, usted, nosotros, ellos, ellas. There you go. Okay. Okay. Something like this, no? Yo is for ends in o, tú ends in as, a ends in e, right? Él, ella, usted ends in a, nosotros, amos, vosotros is ais. This is the one I forgot. De acento. And an is for ellos, ellas, ustedes. Now, Camila, that is our subject, right? Is it yo? No. Is it tú? No. Is it él? No. Is it ella? Yeah, right? And so for ella, right, we know that the ending is just an A. So we drop the AR. There we go. We drop the AR and we add the A. Well, basically just drop the R. So Camila textea mucho a sus amigos. So she texts her friends a lot. Okay, so this is how we plug in the lamp again. We plug it in. That means we take out the AR and we plug in the new ending. Okay, so these are the endings for AR verbs. So make sure that you have them in your notes somewhere in the little chart, that we usually make. The 6 parts, so yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Okay, and so let's look at more examples here. You can probably finish the other ones, right? Like montar. So try those by yourself. A Nayeli le gusta montar a caballo. Nayeli likes to go to do horseback riding. See? Eloy le gusta andar en patineta. Le gusta levantar pesas a Juan Fernando, ¿sí? Y bueno, Sebastián le gusta comer. Now, comer, it's an ER verb, so that's going to be really similar to the Sebastián, right? Because ver was also an ER verb. So go back to your notes and see the endings for ver, right? To see the ending for comer. And so we have AR verbs. So you are going to try, a Nayeli le gusta montar a caballo. So try that one. But right now you can pause this video and then come back when you're ready to do. A Nayeli le gusta montar a caballo, a Eloy le gusta andar en patineta, y a Juan Fernando le gusta levantar pesas en el gimnasio. Now, you can do the last one too if you want to take a little risk and try it out with the ER verb. But pause it right now and try Nayeli, Eloy, Juan Fernando, y Sebastián. So try those 4, pause this video, come back. Again, we're going to delete a and le gusta, a les gusta, right? So delete the verb gustar now. Now we're just, instead of saying he or she or we like to do something, we do this, right? And so First, delete a in le gusta or a les gusta, a nos gusta, whatever it is. Get rid of that verb gustar. And then find your subject, who, what is pleasing to who, who are we talking about? Find the verb, identify whether it's an AR or an ER verb in this case, and we have those two, and change it, right? And so let's see if I have, so that again, this is the endings for AR verbs, okay? So take a quick pause here, go to your textbook on page 55 and try those four, and then we'll come back and see if you got them correct. Okay. Bueno, esperemos que ya tienes las respuestas. Let's hope you have your responses. Again, these are the AR endings. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. There is a song that I'm going to link to the lectures page where you sing the endings of AR verbs. And so hopefully that's catchy for you and you're able to remember these endings because they are really important. And so let's look at the ones that you must have. Let me see. I'm just going to write here the last examples, the last four. And so, dice así. A Nayeli le gusta montar a caballo. This one, you should have changed it too. Nayeli monta a caballo. Again, we're deleting a in le gusta. Our verb is montar, to ride, a caballo, right? And so we're talking about in the third person. El, ella, usted, it's an a, monta, ¿vale? The next one, a Eloy le gusta andar en patineta. The answer should have been Eloy anda en patineta. He skateboards. Again, it's an AR verb and it's Eloy. It's in the third person, él. And so the ending for that one is also a. Juan Fernando le gusta levantar pesas en el gimnasio. ¿Sí? Again, we're deleting the verb gustar. So that goes away, that takes away a in le gusta. And so we're left with Fernando, o Juan Fernando más bien, levanta pesas en el gimnasio. Again, Juan Fernando, it's talking to the third person, right? We don't see any yo, we don't see any tú. So always, again, the subject, I can't stress this enough. When we're looking at the subject, when you're identifying who are they talking about, if they're talking about yo, they're always going to have it there, right? And so instead of Nayeli, you're going to have yo, right? And so that is how you're going to be, okay, we're talking about yo, the first person, right? Tú, también, they also add it in there in parentheses often, right? Tú, so that tells you it's in the tú form, right? If it's a name, if it's an él, if it's an ella, if it's usted, we know that's in the third person, see? Él, ella, usted. In this case, this is the case. We have names, right? Someone we don't know. The third person, right? Nayeli, Eloy, Juan Fernando, right? That is not me. It doesn't say yo. It doesn't say tú, right? It doesn't say Fernando y yo, right? That would be nosotros. So when it's a name and it has y yo, that is nosotros because it's including you, right? It's including yo. And so most of these are in the third person. So therefore, the verbs like andar, right? Levantar, right? To lift weights, lift, levantar. They're just gonna have the a ending, okay? And so let's look at the last one, see if you got that one right. Sebastián le gusta comer en restaurantes con su compañero Daniel. Okay, so this one, the verb is comer, see? And so it is an ER ending. And so do you guys remember the ER endings? Hopefully you took notes on that part, but your answer should look like this. Sebastián, right, come en restaurantes con su compañero Daniel. Okay? So again, taking a le gusta in this case, because we're not talking about what he likes to do, we're talking about what he does, right? We're not talking about what Nayeli likes to do anymore. We're talking about what she does. And so Eloy, the first one, he likes to ride his skateboard, right? Versus he skates, right? Anda en patineta, he skates. That's something he does. And so think of it this way, right? So if we want to say I like something, again, me gusta, but you're going to use that verb. Me gusta plus the infinitive, right? The verb unplugged, and it doesn't change anything. We don't drop the AR, we don't drop the ER. It's just AR, ER, IR. When we're saying that we do something in general, then that is when we conjugate the verb, okay? Like in this case, I guess the AR, that is what we're going to focus on again. And so you should know the AR endings, and so at least have them in your notes, okay? And so let's look at so this is something that you can do on your own, right? To be able to identify the category that these activities fall under. So you have your packet. Hopefully you were able to print it. If not, you have your vocabulary page on 74, página 74. Okay, you have las actividades favoritas. And so what I want you to do is in your notebook, en tu cuaderno, you're going to identify these activities, and in your notebook, again, just place them under their category, whether they are an AR verb, an ER, or an IR verb, okay? So the first ones that you have on la página 74 are questions. ¿Qué te gusta hacer? What is it that you like to do? ¿Qué te gusta hacer? And then you have me gusta, right? One of the forms that we know. ¿Qué le gusta hacer? What do you like to do, right? What does it mean? What does he or she like to do, or usted? Le gusta, again, that's another pronoun that we know, like he, she, usted likes. And then we have a list of activities. Acampar, right? We've seen these last week. Acampar, to go camping, andar en patineta, bailar, cenar, cocinar, comer, dar, descansar, escuchar música, hacer, ir, janguear, that's a little slang. Janguear is just to hang out or spend time with, or you can say pasar tiempo, that is an AR, pasar tiempo con. We have jugar, leer, levantar, mirar, montar a caballo, nadar, pasear, right, to stroll, to go for a walk, practicar, salir, textear, tocar la guitarra, el piano, right, tocar la guitarra. Now that one's interesting because tocar is to touch, but when you're saying tocar la guitarra is to play the guitar. So when we're talking about playing an instrument, we don't say jugar la guitarra, we say tocar la guitarra, right? Toco la guitarra, toco el piano, toco el saxophone. So any instrument, we're using the verb tocar instead of jugar, right? Then we have again ver and viajar. And so you have that list, and in your notebook, write AR, ER, IR verbs, and then just put a list. You're going to notice that most of them are AR verbs, okay? So write the ones that are end in ER and IR, but focus on the AR verbs. And so that takes us to the irregular verbs. So, ¿por qué son irregulares? Why are they irregular? Son irregulares porque no siguen el patrón, no siguen las reglas de los verbos que terminan en AR, ER, IR, AR, or IR, right? So they don't follow the pattern. They don't follow the rules. So these are rule breakers. And there's really no reason, to just language, honestly. But let's look at these. So we have jugar. Oops. What is it? We have jugar, which is the most important one. Okay. And so let me just erase all this. We have jugar. We have salir. What else do we have? Salir, hacer. Uy, no. Here, erase this all again. All together. So tenemos jugar. Ay. We have ser, ir, dar y salir. Okay. So jugar is irregular because even though it's an AR verb, there's a stem change that happens here. We actually add an E, right? So that I go to say that I play. So the first ones, you're always going to have yo. Yo juego, or tú juegas, él, ella, usted juega, nosotros jugamos. We don't add an A to nosotros. Nosotros jugáis. Ellos or ellas, ustedes juegan. Okay, so notice it still ends with an O, it still ends with an as, it still ends with an a, amos, ais, an. Okay, so yes, they do have the same endings, but what makes it irregular is this E right here. Juego, right? Yo juego, I play. Tú juegas, you play. Él juega, he plays. She plays, usted plays. Right? Nosotros jugamos, we don't have an A there. We don't have an E. We didn't add the E to nosotros or vosotros. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, the E comes back, juegan. ¿Vale? And so that makes it irregular. Now, hacer, again, yo hago. So instead of just dropping the ER, we change the C to a G, to una G. So yo hago, tú haces, and we're back to the C. Él, ella, usted hace. Nosotros hacemos. Vosotros hacéis. Y ellos hacen. Irregular, why? That first person, right? A G, that makes it irregular. Even though the other ones follow the rules, they have the same ending, right? But this one, if one changes, then it's irregular. Now, the verb ir. The verb ir means to go. ¿Sí? So, ir de compras, to go shopping, right? Me gusta ir de compras. Infinitive form, right? It doesn't change. It's an IR, it's an ir. But this verb means to go. And when we say, when instead of saying me gusta ir de compras, and you want to say I go shopping, see, it changes completely. Okay, it doesn't look like ir, but voy, see, it means to go. I go, right? Voy de compras, right? And then we finish the phrase. But the verb ir by itself to go, doy. I mean voy de compras instead of ir de compras, see? Vas de compras, you go shopping. She goes shopping, va de compras. ¿Sí? Nosotros vamos de compras. Otros vais uy, de compras. Y ellos van de compras. So you notice really similar to AR, even though it's ir, right? So first one, voy. Yo voy de compras. I go shopping. Tú vas de compras. You go shopping. Ella va de compras. She goes shopping. Nosotros vamos de compras. Vosotros vais de compras, ¿sí? Y ellos, ellas, ustedes van. Ellos van de compras. Ellas van de compras. Ustedes van de compras, ¿sí? So again, irregular, this one for sure, it changes the whole thing. Dar means to give, right? Or in this case, dar, wait, where is this one here? Is it even? Oh yeah, dar un paseo, like to go for a walk, right? Dar un paseo. So doy un paseo, right? Doy, das un paseo, él da un paseo, nosotros damos, right? So again, it does follow the endings. However, in the first one, right, we have the Y there. And so that makes it irregular. But everything is the same. Now, salir, to go out. See? This one, salgo. Yo salgo a pasear. O yo salgo, ¿dónde está salir? A bailar. I go out dancing. Salir a bailar, to go out dancing. Yo salgo a bailar. Tú sales a bailar. Él o ella o usted sale a bailar. Nosotros salimos a bailar. Salís a bailar. And salimos. No, salen a bailar. And when we get to the changing the, when we learn about ER and IR verbs, those we are going to see them together because they have similar endings. If you took notes of the ER endings, they have basically the same endings except for nosotros and vosotros. Okay, so this is where the I comes in, and then this one it's an E, right? Just like an ER verb. And so we have, these are the irregular verbs for these activities. So jugar is the most important one because you usually use this one to say that you play a sport, jugar, or you can say practicar, like to practice a sport. But if you play soccer or baseball, yo juego fútbol, yo juego béisbol, right? That's the one you want to use. We don't use jugar, again, we don't use jugar for playing an instrument. Okay, that is tocar. That is on page 75. Tocar. Tocar la guitarra, tocar el piano. ¿Vale? And so we add the E. Juego, juegas, juega, except for nosotros and vosotros. And juegan comes back. Hacer, hago, and then the rest follows the ER ending. Oh, so this is, yeah. So look at hacer and salir, right? So hago, salgo, haces, right? It is an ES, sales, it's an ES, hace, the third person, it's an E, sale, and the third person, it's an E. This one for nosotros and vosotros, it ends in EMOS, right? Or EIS. This one, this is where it shows it's an IR verb because it's, instead of an E, it's an I. Okay, salís. Salís. Hacen, right? Ends in en, salen ends in en. So they're really similar. The ones that gives it away of what type of verb they are, it's the nosotros and vosotros because it's either going to have an e, right, for er, or an e, an I, or an ir verb. Okay, so these are the irregular verbs. Hopefully that's, I didn't want this to be such a long lecture, but I wanted to go and do this with you because you do have that assignment 6B2 on Connect, where it's going to tell you ellos, right? They're going to tell you either ellos or two names, and then they're going to give you a verb, and you have to know how to conjugate it. So like, let's say Eloy y Camila, right? And then they're going to give you the infinitive form. They're going to give you jugar, right? And you're going to have to be, you're going to have to conjugate. So you plug in the lamp, right? And then you change depending on who they're talking about. If they're talking about two people, we know it's they, right? Ellos, ellas, or ustedes. And then juegan, right? So we know that ending is an, but with the verb jugar, we end the e. We add the e on the stem. And so 6B2 is all about this. So good luck with that. And yeah, so if you have questions about this, I know this can be a little bit heavy. Please let me know. Come to office hours and I'll gladly help you. Okay, chicos? Hasta luego. Ciao.